Alright, welcome to MA-ASPhysics Summer 2011 homework tutorial. I'm doing this with an OpenOffice spreadsheet. You can see it here. By the way, apologies for the audio. Sounds like I'm in a closet. I'm not. You can get the OpenOffice spreadsheet business and word processing from openoffice.org, or you can buy Microsoft Excel. I prefer this since it's free and it works better. All right, let's get started here. Today we're going to just look at the ability to plot individual data points and a mathematical function on the same graph. That's key. We're going to be doing that all year long. So let's get started with a little nomenclature here. Notice that spreadsheets have columns listed by letters and rows listed by numbers. So each of these little rectangles called cells have a particular label. It's labeled by the column and the row number. So this is A4, this would be B5, this would be J11, right? J11. All right, well, let's get back over here. We're going to just put in some data that I'm going to make up. We'd like this data to be centered as I type it rather than over on the left-hand side. So I will just tell it to center these columns like this. I'm going to put a little bar underneath so it looks like the headers of columns. And in the x values, I'd like to have a 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. We're just going to plot 6 data points here. Now you might think, well, what if we had to plot 100? That would be a lot to type in like that. Try this. Let's get rid of this. Let's do it the real way. What we'd like is cell A4 to be one more than cell A3. So instead of typing 1, 2, 3, what we're going to do is tell the computer to calculate that. We do that by starting with an equal sign in the cell. That's the first character in. And then we want to tell it A3, and I can either type A3 like this, oops, A3, or I can just click on the cell A3 and it'll type it for me. So I want it to be A3 plus 1. So when I hit enter now, it'll calculate A3 plus 1 is 1, and there I have it. You might say, well, that's going to take a lot of time to type in those formulas all the way down. No, once we've done that, just once, we take the lower right-hand corner, and if we drag that down, it will duplicate that formula for us. And now notice I can go as far as I want. I could go to 10,000 here, and it would calculate all the way up to there. We only want up through 5, so I'm going to take these and just clear them. Now we want to put in some random y data, not quite random. I'm going to select some values here, so I'm going to put 5, and then we'll have 6.4, and 8.1, 9.6, 11.1, and 13.5. That looks good. So these are the individual data points that we would like to plot on a graph. To plot anything on a graph, you come up here to a chart wizard. This little symbol here looks very similar to the one on Microsoft Excel. You click it, and it gives you a set of types of charts that you could use. And virtually the entire year, we're going to use XY scatter. So that's our chart type. Let's go on to data range, which is the next thing. And we're going to skip that because I never quite get how to do that. We're just going to go straight to data series. And what we mean by a series of data is this collection of numbers right here. So when we say add a series, we're going to tell it that these are our x and y values. So here we go. I'm going to move this over so you can see it. So I'm going to say add. It gives a random name or an unnamed name to the series. We don't care what the name is. We need to tell it what the x values are and the y values. Now I could type right here some symbol that meant give me A3 through A8, but instead I like point and click, so I'm going to click on this, come over here and just grab this, and just by pulling down and releasing the mouse, it automatically puts in A3 through A8, never mind the dollar signs. We'll worry about that some other day. And now we have to tell it the y values. So here goes with the y values. I'm going to select in the same manner this way. Bingo. And now we are done with that. And by the way, you can see on the data, you can see on the chart that it's already showing that. We're going to go on to chart elements, and this is where we put in things like the title. Here we'll just type y as a function of x. No subtitle. We'll label the x-axis x and the y-axis y. Later on we'll have much better labels for that. Notice that there is a legend here, and generally I just get rid of this. So I'm just going to get rid of this now. We don't care about that. It goes away, it gives you more space on the chart. And now we are done with this first part. And let's make the chart a little wider so we can see it like that. Move it down a little. We might actually well, never mind. So here we have the data points, the individual data points. I don't like them this big, and you should get used to making these smaller. So on a Mac, I'm holding down Control as I click on it. On a PC, you would do a right click, and we want to format this data series. And by format, we mean that we want to tell it either to connect all the dots, which we don't want to do in this case. So that's why we're calling the line properties invisible, or we want to put markers, and you can see here the symbols that we can choose from. Right now the default is little squares, that's what we have. What we really want to do is take these icons, or markers as they're called in Excel, and make them smaller. They're too big. So let's make them smaller and say OK, and now you can see they come up smaller on the graph here. Alright, so now we have the data points plotted here. Now what we want to do is plot a mathematical function on the same graph. And here we're going to have to do it somewhat quickly. Let's first figure out what this looks like a straight line here. So let's see if we can plot a straight line in the y equals mx plus b form. Here is, so we need to figure out what the slope is. Slope, and we'll calculate it here. So to calculate it, we do the equal sign, and now we're going to do the rise over the run. So we need the rise, and the rise is, it looks like this last point here is not quite as on the line as these other ones. So let's just go with this point here, 4. So the rise is going to be 11.1 minus 5. So that's the difference in the y's, and then we're going to divide that by the difference in the x's, and that would be 4 minus 0, like that. Okay, and that tells us that the slope of this apparent line that these things fit is about 1.53, and we'll also need the y-intercept, or b value. So I'll just track b, and the b value is where it hits the y-axis, and that looks like it's 5. Yes, there's a 5 right there, so I'll just put a 5 there. Alright, so now we want to plot a bunch of xy points that fit on this line. I'm just copying the header there so I don't have to do it again. And now we want x to run from 0 through 5 again, but we would like them really close together so that it appears to be a smooth line. So I'm going to start with x equals 0, but now instead of making it x equals 0, 1, 2, 3, I'm going to make it go the previous number plus just a little bit, 0.1, like that. And now if I hit enter, it just increases by a 1/10, no problem. I want to go up to 5, so I'm going to drag this all the way down here to like this till I get, whoops, one more. I need one more. There we go. So now I have 0 through 5, but I'm in increments of 0.1. Now let's see what we got for the y values. Instead of typing in individual numbers, we want a function, and we've decided that the function is going to be the straight line, y equals mx, here's m, the slope, plus b. So let's make that cell equal to the slope, 1.53, times the x value at that point, which would be this value right there, plus the y-intercept, which is 5. Okay. Notice, by the way, that I've typed in 1.53 and 5 instead of just clicking on these and getting these values. Let's not get into that now. Just if you need to put in constants that are computed somewhere, just type in the numbers like this for now. We'll see how to do that some other time. So, of course, the value of the line right at this point is 5. And now we're going to duplicate down, just like we did before, and I'll pull it all the way down to 5 here, and bingo, here are all the values on the line. And now all we want to do is come over here. I'm double-clicking on the graph here. On Excel, you'd probably right-click, holding down the Control button, and it says we want to insert some more data ranges. So I'm going to add another one. We already have this one that we plotted up here, so I add another one. I tell it the x values. The x values are going to be these guys, which I just created. There we go. I let go. I tell it the y values. This is the same process as with the other points. By the way, it doesn't matter that I go backwards up to y's. It's just the total number. There we go. That's okay. And I say okay. And now you can see that we've plotted these line points. It's a nice straight line. But by default, they all come out in little points. We don't want that. So we want to format the data series. I've just clicked on one of these points, holding down Control or right-click. And now I want to have no symbol plotted, but I want a continuous line that's red. And I say OK, and bingo, there it is. And now we've plotted, just like we were trying to, individual data points and a mathematical function on the same graph.